Look at that. Maybe the complaining worked. The Blue Jays back in the win column.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Welcome back. I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Wasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription if you're here on YouTube. We've gained a lot of you. A lot of new people joining the Locked On Blue Jays community here. It's great to see. We gotten a lot of comments. And hopefully, everybody's enjoying what we're putting out here. It was a good day for the Toronto Blue Jays today. We got a lot to get into, but let's start off, I guess, with the fact that they won a 9-4 victory against the Boston Red Sox. Carter, just let's start with you. Feelings, thoughts. Where do you want to go?
I think I'll start with, we have a guest, Dallin Wilton, as you've seen on the podcast multiple times. Just give him a little bit of an introduction here. Just completely skipping over the guy over here.
Well, that's why I wanted to get into you first. But
thanks, Braden.
I know Dal won't. We'll get him going, and then he will be 10 minutes later before we say anything again.
Yeah, but thoughts and feelings quickly. I forgot what a win feels like. It seems like this was like a unicorn game. George Springer had a home run. Kevin Kiermaier went like 3 for 4. Like what was happening? It was just a game that I'm not accustomed to seeing. Kevin Kiermaier's hits weren't like the hardest hit balls of all time, but hey, production is production. You finally get a win. I'd feel a lot better if the Jays had a chance to sweep for tomorrow's game, or today's game, I guess, when this is coming out. But again, you get a win. I guess you're back in the win column. You get some offense. Vladdy's kind of on the loose right now. That's a good thing. Spencer Horwitz just continues to get on base. Everyone's horny for Horwitz. I don't know how you can't be. But I'll throw it to you, Dal. How are you feeling about this Toronto Blue Jays team right now?
Yeah, no, that's a textbook win right there. That's everything we've been talking about. You're hitting with guys in scoring position, and look what happens when Springer and Kiermaier contribute. You put up big numbers on the scoreboard. So I think there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, maybe. I mean, we'll see what happens. But no word of a lie today. When I watched Kevin Kiermaier's first at bat, I could see it in his eyes that he's fighting for his job. He knows he might lose his job. I saw it. I knew he was going to have a big game, so it was great to see.
Yeah, it was sort of just an interesting game in the fact that, look what happens when instead of it's 2 guys producing, it's 5 guys. You don't need the whole team to do everything every night. But if you could get 5 guys that go out there and pick up the slack for the other guys those days, this is the stuff that can happen. And I don't want to go and be like, this is, we're back, anything like that. I don't think that. I don't think you can think that after what we just saw the past bunch of days. But I think, like Carter said, it's a bit of a unicorn game. And maybe that's where we got to get into here is, we'll go over the game and what happened. But how much of this, I'll go to you, Dal, first. How much of this is a possible one-off? Like, do you think that they can continue this? Or do you think that this is just what we've seen sort of all season where it's 1 game back and then it's 4 games, behind?
Well, John Schneider said it. He saw it coming for George Springer. But for me, maybe this is something that could spark them, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a one-off. But they showed that this group, they're capable of, winning ball games when they all contribute. I mean, not everyone did today, but guys who were lacking production before definitely stepped up today, and it proved well for them. I mean, the pitching staff was great. Gausman had a pretty good game, and those 3 guys out of the bullpen held it down for the rest of the game. They didn't blow a lead like the other night, so it's very positive to see for sure.
Yeah, I think you got to be happy with what you get. Like, you can't complain about wins, but this really all comes from a massive 3rd inning. Like 7 or on 3rd inning, you're going to take that every single day of the week. I mean, you started off with a Danny Jansen double down the line. You get helped up a little bit here by the Boston Red Sox defense. Rafael Devers, a good bunt by IKF, but can't make a play there. And then you get a Wilyer Abreu launch to Narnia. I'm not sure where he was throwing that baseball. It was all the way into the dugout. obviously helping the Jays out there as well. But then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been on loose as well. Obviously 2 doubles in this game. You get Justin Turner walk. You get Spencer Horwitz getting on base. George Springer out of nowhere somehow hits a home run after having one of the worst at-bats I've ever seen in the second inning. So again, you got to take some positives away from that. But yeah, 7-run innings are always going to play. 9-run ball games are always going to play. It helps your pitching out a ton. You can kind of tell with Kevin Gausman that he wasn't as worried that he had to be perfect because he got up so early in the ball game. And one thing I did notice from Kevin Gausman, I think that's something I've been noticing from a lot of pitchers just on the Toronto Blue Jays, is pretty much every time the Toronto Blue Jays pitchers are giving up hard hit balls, these balls are literally right down the middle. That Devers home run ball is a middle fastball. That Yoshida double down the line, I think in the second inning, also a middle fastball. You got to stay away from the middle of the plate, and I can hammer that as much as I want to on this podcast. Obviously, they're not trying to throw it right down the middle, but one thing the Jays aren't really doing, they did today a lot better than they have normally, is they took advantage of these middle pitches. You see the Red Sox doing it, you see the Guardians doing it. The Jays can start taking advantage of mistakes from the pitchers. That's your best opportunity to hit balls hard, drive runners in, hit the ball hard, home runs, extra base hits. That all comes along with hitting the ball hard. They can start taking advantage of pitchers' mistakes. They're going to actually have a lot more success on offense.
Yeah, that's exactly what we haven't seen all year. They've missed a ton of middle pitches all season long. And I think today, yeah, it was this sort of culmination of all that. And this is a game that they didn't miss those pitches. And look what happens. You got to take advantage. Bayo's not the best pitcher of all time, and they took advantage. They got to him quickly. That's what they have to get doing here. They just, maybe it's starting to look for those middle pitches. I don't know. Like maybe they're waiting on too much of a fastball or a breaking ball instead of, hey, if something's down the middle, whatever it is, I got to be swinging at that and trying for it. And so maybe it's a mental piece of this. Dal, just overall, I guess we sort of talked the pitching staff, but let's talk about George Springer now. I mean, a bounce back game, obviously, from the just horrendous season he's already had to start off with. Do you think that this could be a little bit of a spark for him personally?
It's the last name Springer. It's always going to, open your eyes a bit. Knowing George and his past history, I mean, this could be something that sparks him again because, when he is on, he's a great player, but we haven't seen anything out of him this year. It's been terrible to watch. And for that long of a slump that he had, you got to think that maybe he's coming out of it now. But like I said, you can't be surprised if he just goes right back in the hole. But it's great to see. It's definitely a step forward, and it's for sure going to boost his confidence a little. So maybe he'll start having some better at bats.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's tough to tell, right? Because, like I've said before, we've seen this happen. We've seen where they've come out and gotten a huge, run game, and then the next series or the next game, it goes right back to being where it was. And you can see the relief in Kevin Gausman. I know Carter brought that up before, or maybe it was you, Dal, who said that you could almost see the relief in Kevin Gausman when he came out for the fourth inning there. It was like, the weight has been lifted off his shoulders and he could just throw with confidence. And that's what happened. I mean, don't get me wrong. He still gives up to the 2-run shot there and then, whatever. But it's the not having to panic if you do give up 2 runs here or 2 runs there. These guys have put numbers on the board early, which takes such the huge pressure off the bullpen who's eventually going to come into the game. Carter, how do you think the bullpen looked today?
I mean, you come into a game, you're up 9-2. I guess with Kevin Gausman, it was 9-4. But again, you have a 5-run lead. You should be able to hold on to that lead. I feel better about it, I guess, since they blew a 6-2 lead in that last game. So it's definitely better. But again, you're in a game where these at-bats are a little bit less serious. The game kind of felt like it was out of reach in a sense. But then again, can't take away from production. Like once again, you get the job done. The bullpen's depleted. It's right now, like Yimi Garcia's out, Jordan Romano's out, Eric Swanson may never come back this season. I'm not sure. He's not having a good stint in AAA here. So you're kind of dealing with what you have. So again, you have to hold the bullpen accountable because you don't really have the depth right now. Tim Mitza is literally throwing middle fastballs. We're talking about that all the time. That's exactly what he's doing. Brennan Little is one of your higher leverage guys. Obviously, Trevor Richards has been good. Chad Green's been good. But when you have only 2 or 3 reliable pitchers out of this bullpen, it's going to be tough for me to be in a good spot looking at the bullpen. But you hopefully have reinforcements on the way. As I went over last episode, Romano's been throwing a little bit more. Yimi Garcia. These guys can help bolster your bullpen. Again, they got a job done today, but I'm not saying that I'm overly excited about this bullpen right now. I'm still pretty worried every single time most of these guys come into the ballgame, especially if it's a 1-2 run game. but you do a job. They finally get a win after 7 straight games of losing. So I can't get too upset with this George Springer stuff. I still don't know why he's hitting 5 in this lineup. I don't care if he went 5 for 5 today with 5 home runs. Wouldn't matter to me. You can't hit George Springer 5. You can barely hit George Springer in the lineup whatsoever. Maybe this is a turning point for him. You got to hope for that, I guess. But I'm at the point with George Springer is that he had one good game. You got to show me probably a couple weeks of consistency, just even hitting 250. I take that at this point. George Springer's still hitting 196 on the year. Not taking a lot away from this game. Brian Bayo's not that good. You do get some hits after off some Boston relievers, but you need some more consistency from George Springer. And until he gets that, just keep him hitting 7, maybe 8, like 6 at best. You should not be in the 5 hole. He was in the 4 hole over the weekend. That is just blasphemous. Don't know why he'd ever be there with one of probably the worst hitter on the team. I guess Kevin Kiermaier might want to have a word with him on that. You can compare those two. But with the expectation, you need George Springer to be one of your better players. You think to have a better season. Kevin Kiermaier, you kind of know what you're getting out of him. But from both of these guys, you just need more offense on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and I just don't know necessarily if that's in the cards. And I don't think that a lot of Blue Jays fans feel that way. I think that everybody's a little bit still concerned. Yes, this win helps. The 9 runs helps. It looks better. But it's we're just gonna have to wait and see, honestly, what comes out of tomorrow's game and then the following series, obviously. Dal, I think moving forward, are you expecting the bullpen to look a little different in the sense of today? What I didn't love was that yesterday we don't pitch Trevor Richards and we don't pitch Chad Green, which is probably because we used them the day before. But today our 2 best guys go out and they shut the door and put the clamps on them in Trevor Richards and Chad Green. And so is there a way maybe that we have to start splitting these guys up and utilizing them differently instead of in the same day so that, hopefully we can avoid those blown games moving forward?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Brendan Little. He got in a tight situation there in the 7th, but he struck out a very good hitter in Devers. So, I mean, he could have blown that game wide open and he got the job done. So that's good to see. But for those 2 guys, I mean, I don't mind them pitching on the same day if we're going to get a win like this. But, they're not getting in that many situations that they're going to use those guys because they're always down. So going forward, if they're going to be in winning situations, they need guys to get some holds or shut down a ball game. I think I like the idea of having those guys pitch back to back right now, given what we have in the bullpen. Because other than those 2 guys and maybe Little, there's not a lot of options. I'm not going to pitch Pearson. I'm not going to pitch Meza. I think Meza should be DFA'd. I don't think he should ever pitch another game for the Blue Jays. But that's just my thoughts. I don't mind him pitching on the same day if it's going to get us a win.
Yeah, today it felt like this was my World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays. They needed this win so badly. I would have been fine with them trying to throw Yusei Kikuchi, Jose Barrios at this point, just to try to get a win after not getting a win for 7 straight games. I guess you could say 8 because we lost the off day as well. That's how bad Blue Jays baseball was for a while. But with Brendan Little just kind of owns Rafael Devers. You go back to that first series, just made him look silly at the plate, to say the least. A big strikeout, obviously, on Devers, gets him out of a jam. Now, I'm on the same boat as Dal here. If you have Trevor Richards, you have Chad Green, you got to pitch them in games that you have the highest leverage, games that you have a chance to win, because this team needs wins. That's simply what it comes down to. We always talk about the little victories on this podcast. I don't care if Vladdy hits 4 home runs. Spencer Hortz getting on base every single time. If you don't get the win, who cares at this point? So if you need to pitch Trevor Richards for 2 innings and then Chad Green for the last inning with Kevin Gausman going 6 innings, I'd be more than fine with that. I don't care about burning him for the next day. You take it day by day. Try to get your wins when they're available. And I think John Schneider actually made the right decision in throwing these 2 players, even though it was a 5-run ball game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that going them back to back in a game like this where you think you can secure a win, I really like that move. I think that moving forward, maybe if you do have bigger leads, or you're getting killed, I would rather have them, hey, let's just hold these guys or just throw one of them so we have one for tomorrow at least as well. I think there's a few options there, but it's a tricky situation, obviously, with the depleted bullpen. You know what, guys? Let's take a quick break. I have some crazy statements from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that came out just before today's game, and the Blue Jays' percentage of making the playoffs. This was before today's game as well, but I need your guys' reaction because holy moly, it is going to shock you.
Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Whether it's a new spoiler, new brakes, a new alternator, or you just want to deck out your ride, eBay Motors will have everything you need. They're super easy to deal with, very knowledgeable, and their experts give great advice that is very specific to your needs. To keep your ride or die alive, go to ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers.
Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive high revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find the buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. All right, boys, got some sort of crazy little tidbits for you today. Let's start off, I think, with the question, the playoffs, right? The playoffs. Will this team make the playoffs? Well, going into today's ball game, the Blue Jays had a 5.2% chance of making the playoffs. How do you guys feel about that? Dal, I want to start with you as a little bit of a, you're not on this podcast every day talking to these people. So in your view, is this the right number? And are you at all, I don't even want to say confident, but do you see that it's a possibility that these Blue Jays can find a way to come back and make the playoffs somehow?
No, I'm not surprised given the brand of baseball we've watched for a while now. Is there hope? I would say there's a glimmer of hope. If they can have more games like this, that would be great, but that's not going to happen. But no, I really think even with this win, I think they're going to tear the team apart a bit. And, maybe the young guys spark something when all these older guys are gone, if they do dish them at the trade deadline. But no, I don't see them making the playoffs. I'm usually very optimistic, but I'm really down in the dumps lately about the Jays. So I don't see them making it there.
I mean, how can't you be? You look at 2 straight series sweeps and one of the worst blown leads we have of the entire season, and probably the worst spot that could ever happen. For me, the playoffs really rely on one thing, and it's going to have to come from a winning streak. And it's going to have to be 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 games. Do I think this team can win 6 straight games? Absolutely not. They can't even win 2 straight series. So you look at the pitching staff. The pitching staff is good enough that they probably could go on a little run here. But it's the offense. As of late, it hasn't been as bad, I guess you could say. But in total, you look at this offense, it's just so inconsistent. You'll score 9 runs, and then I wouldn't be surprised you get 2 runs tomorrow. So it's one of those things that you're going to need a win streak, and I don't think it's really in the cards for the Jays. You're looking at your record here. You're 36-43. After this series, you got the Yankees, and you got the Astros, who are just the hottest team in the MLB. Of course, we couldn't get the Astros when they were struggling. They won 6 straight now. After coming off a sweep against the Baltimore Orioles, you kind of saw what we've done against the Baltimore Orioles. Definitely have not even been close to a sweep in that aspect. So this comes down to a winning streak. It comes down to multiple series wins in a row. And if we're not playing the Chicago White Sox, the Athletics, the Chicago White Sox, the Pittsburgh Pirates, I just don't necessarily seeing that happening. It's such a good division as well. You're going to have to play the Yankees a lot more coming up. The Tampa Bay Rays are going to get some pitching back. You're struggling heavily against the AL East. You got a ton of tough opponents coming up in your schedule. So I'm going to say, it makes sense that there was 5.2% the Jays were making the playoffs. I think that almost might be too high with the brand of baseball that we've been watching. So I've said it before. This pitching staff is good enough that we can go on a little run here. it all comes down to the offense. If Bo Bichette can have a Bo Timber month, if George Springer can actually be serviceable, if Spencer Horwitz continues his grind, if Vladdy can continue what he's doing this year, there's a lot of what ifs. And that's the biggest problem that I have, is that you need so much to go right for a team that's just had so much go wrong this entire season. I just don't know if the playoffs are in the cards right now. If I was a betting man, I would bet no, they're not going to make the playoffs after what we've seen over these first pretty much 80 games of the season.
Yeah, Carter, and you talked about, going on that 6-game win streak to, get sort of back to it. The problem is, even with a 6-game win streak, that only puts you back to 500. Like it's depressing. It's sort of, there's nothing you can do but laugh a little bit right now, because I think that light at the end of the tunnel that we always talk about isn't there. We were pretty down on this team yesterday, Bob. I know you probably listened, but the light that it just isn't there, and I don't see a possibility right now. Like I think, like Carter said, 5.2 to me seems a little bit high. Do I think it's there's a possibility, a slight possibility? Maybe, I don't know. Again, it's going to have to all see what happens right around that trade deadline, where the Blue Jays sit and what's going to happen. Because I could see a blow up, like we said yesterday, coming up pretty quickly if it is indeed time for that. But let's take one more break, boys, and then I got a sort of a bigger thing to get into, and I think this goes on the theme of the last couple of days. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with that.
Here on Locked On Blue Jays, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, it's really year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have a complicated matter that requires tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. Today's episode is also sponsored by Prize Picks. So up to this point, I've watched pretty much every single Toronto Blue Jays game. And when I watch the Blue Jays games with my friends, we always find ourselves predicting the next outcome in the at-bats, whether it's a strikeout, a hit, a home run, or a double play ball by George Springer that we've become so accustomed to at this point. But we always make these little wagers. At this point, I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start picking Vladdy, total bases, extra base hits, home runs, because he is raking right now. He's hitting the ball hard, and we love to see it. But Prize Picks gives me the opportunity to not just prove myself to my friends, but to put my money where my mouth is. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond into your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more than or less than and add them to your Prize Picks entries today. Prize Picks is very simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entries in as little as 60 seconds. If you know which players are going to perform on specific nights, this is a no-brainer. Download Prize Picks and start making your picks today. So you can download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100.
Oh, geez. So close.
Yes, I'm Billy again. We're going back to when I took over the podcast and I was Brandon Wasco for 3 days.
That was
tough 3
awesome.
days. It was tough looking at myself in the mirror there for a while.
Okay, come on.
No,
Actually,
you were looking
Skylar
uglier
Peters.
than usual.
They said Braden's never looked more handsome in his life, so at least you got that going for you.
That is what Skylar Peters said. First thing I walk in, because you looked way cuter this week. It's like, oh, thanks. Anyway, big news coming out of the Score app. Actually, it was Tom Rominsky that put this article out on talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and what he is looking for. Vlad has repeatedly said that he will never play for the New York Yankees. No matter what happens, he will never play for them.
I love it so much. I hate the Yankees. Obviously, we hate the Yankees on this podcast. That's why Vladdy's our guy. Even though he could, again,
this is going to disappoint you.
Oh, I haven't seen this article, but I just want to quickly say that hopefully this doesn't disappoint me to that point. But yeah, if you hate the Yankees, I love you that much more. I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe I'll switch up here. Maybe I'll be a hypocrite, but we'll see what happens.
No, this is going to hurt you, though. Vlad says, I'm a worker, I'm a professional, and I go out on the field to play, and he was asked, would he ever consider to play for the New York Yankees? I sat down to talk with my dad, with my family, and that's that. Like I tell you, I'm a player, and if the team picks me or if they do something, it's because they need me, obviously. And I'll be happy to help any team. But right now, I'm focused on helping my team and trying to get out of this bad streak. So he obviously switched up his answer. It's the first time in his entire career that he didn't outright, say I'm not playing for the New York Yankees. Was a little bit of something there. Does this hurt you? Is this leaning in a way of, with the bad losing streak, if this team can't pick it up, is Vlad an option to be moved? In my books, it's an absolutely not. But and I don't want maybe your opinion, but what you think is a possibility for this team. Dal, I want to start with you.
Yeah, that's a tad disappointing to hear. And the Yankees are going to go and try to get someone like Vladdy too. But I don't think he should be moved. That's my opinion. But you never know what Atkins is going to do. Like you never know what he's thinking. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was willing to trade Vladdy to a division rival. I mean, I already won his head on a pike. So if he did that, that would be the last straw. But like I said, he shouldn't be moved. He's the face of this franchise. I enjoy watching him, good or bad. Well, actually, not true. When he's swinging at the slider or grounding out the shortstop, I don't like that. But he's our guy, like Carter said, and I'd be sad to see him go, and I'd be really angry too, given if it was a trade within the division.
Yeah, just based off kind of what you said in that article, I don't know if this was necessarily like I'm going to the Yankees thing. This just might be if the Toronto Blue Jays go into a rebuild. I don't think Vladdy necessarily wants to be a part of that. He was supposed to be the thing that changed this franchise. Him, Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio used to be the big three here, and obviously Kevin Biggio is now on the Dodgers playing whatever. He's playing kind of just Kevin Biggio style ball. But that's a completely different subject. With Vladimir Guerrero Jr., this just might open the door with him just not being a Blue Jay for his entire career. And I think that really stems from this rebuilding stuff. But I would like to say, if Ross Atkins, I don't think Ross Atkins is going to be in the position to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr., just the way he's constructed this lineup, constructed this entire Blue Jays team over his tenure with the Jays since 2016. I don't think he's going to have the option to trade Vladdy. But somehow, if Vladdy was traded to the Yankees, to start off, you got to get the biggest haul of all time. If you're trading to a division rival, you're going to have to see this guy a ton of times throughout the year. And I just want to ask you guys this. How long would Vladimir Guerrero Jr. last the New York Yankees with how crazy and chaotic their fan base is? Do you think Vladdy getting picked off at second base and then kind of just posing with his hand behind his head? Do you think the Yankees fans are going to like that? Do you think the Yankees fans are going to like Vladdy bring out the home run jacket when they're down 8-1? Like, they would crucify Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if he went to the New York Yankees. Might be worse than an Aaron Hicks situation from a couple of years back. So if Vladdy wants to go test his luck with the New York Yankees, good luck to you, man. I don't think you're going to enjoy it too much. Maybe playing with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge would be kind of fun. But overall, with those fans, if it's not going completely 100% successful, it's going to be a struggle for him. So for me with this, I'm not as much taking it for the New York Yankees thing. I don't think they should move Vladimir Guerrero Jr. As we've seen, he's been hitting a little bit better recently. He is the face of the franchise, a guy that is a homegrown talent for the Toronto Blue Jays. You don't get a lot of guys saying that they would be okay with staying their entire career with the Jays. Again, maybe this is a little bit of a switch up. I think it's more so just with the state of the team, maybe, and unless there is damaged relationships in the front office. Obviously, arbitration isn't great for your player's mindset and all that kind of stuff. But again, we're speculating right now. I'm glad that he is focused on this season because you still have a lot of games to play. You still have over half season to play. I think this is more so of an end of a year problem. And then especially next year going into his contract year, it's going to be talked about a whole lot more, in my opinion, when you're talking about this Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette even throw in there, and just the future of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I think when you look sort of at this article, I think, what everybody's taking away from this is that, he's being a little bit more open about the trades. And he's not shutting them down right away. And I think that's a pretty big switch up from how he's been his entire career. Could I see him getting traded to the Yankees? I think that's a very, very large leap because I don't think the Blue Jays would trade in division, not one of their, homegrown superstars. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's on the table and what's off the table right now. So I think that's sort of an interesting piece to look at. But Carter, I'm going to throw it back to you as we got a couple little bit more little clips that you sort of put together.
Yeah, so I just want to start out by, if the Yankees want anyone, take George Springer. You can have George Springer if you want. I'm more than fine with giving you that contract. We don't even need anything back from him. We'll take cash considerations. You can just take George Springer, take him off our hands, maybe turn his career around. Who knows? But yeah, you're probably not going to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the guys. But speaking of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I said he's been hitting a lot better recently. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over his last 4 games, 17 at bats, 7 hits, 3 of them home runs, one of them being a 471-foot moon bomb over the Fenway Park there, over the obviously the monster. 6 RBIs, an average of 412, and an OPS of 1,412. Vladdy's just raking. Like, you love to see Vladdy hitting extra base hits, Vladdy home runs. How cool was that? I'll throw it back to you as you hear it. Just how cool was that seeing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. launch the ball into the ocean? It seemed like in Fenway there.
Yeah, no, that's super cool to see, and I got the chance, I think 2 years ago it was, to catch the Jays in Minnesota against the Twins, and I remember I was sitting in the concourse and Vladdy was up to bat, and everyone that was in the concourse immediately went to somewhere that you could watch him hit. Like, he's just that special. They all wanted to pay attention to what he was doing, so that's cool to see. And like we've seen in the home run derbies too, he can launch baseballs, and I think he's slowly finding his power again. So it's for me, it's very positive, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, me too. It's the whole launch angle aspect of it, because he always hits balls hard. That was never his issue, because it's just he was beating them into the ground. And so if he can find that launch angle again, and it looks like he's starting to pick back up. If you get Vlad hitting home runs, I mean, man, it just elevates everyone around him. So if he can start doing that, I think that engages a lot of other players. When you see who's supposed to be one of your leaders on this team at this point stepping up, it sort of just, drives that sort of fire in your gut and get, makes you want to get going. So yeah, watching Vladdy hit that home run, I mean, man, he is something special when he's on.
Yeah, he definitely makes the Toronto Blue Jays a lot more fun to watch when he is hitting baseballs. But I just do want to go into one negative thing about Vladdy. I don't know what he was doing out there defensively today. Like, we didn't get into that at all when we were going over the game there. But Tyler O'Neill, he gets a pop up, and for some reason, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't turn around. He decides to backpedal like it's like on basketball when you get a bucket and then you're just backpedaling back to your own zone. It didn't make any sense. Just turn around, get under the baseball, then he falls over to it. Just a horrible display. And then obviously, I think it was maybe in the 6th inning, it was a Dominic Smith at bat. It's a slow roller to first base, and Vladdy just whiffs on the ball. Just absolutely just misses it. Again, doesn't matter because he hit like a 415-foot double with the bases loaded, and then also had another double later on in the game, driving in runs. So if you're going to drive in runs and make 2 errors a game, I mean, I'm not really going to be one to complain. We've already talked about on this podcast. Defense sucks. Screw defense at this point. I don't care anymore. Let's get some offense. Let's go back to 2021 where we're just losing baseball games 12-10. At least that's a lot more fun of a baseball or a brand of baseball to watch. But one thing I want to go over my boy again, Spencer Horwitz. Took a little bit of a deep dive into his stats here. When Spencer Horwitz has more than 1 at-bat in a game, he has not had a game where he has not gotten on base yet. So Spencer Horwitz, I think we found our number 2, number 1 hitter, whatever you want to say. Keep Vladdy at 3. Keep Spencer Horwitz at 1 or 2 in the lineup. He's playing ridiculous. Again, another unbelievable day, walking, getting on base for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's going over his stats really quick here. A 348 average, again, small sample size, 46 at-bats, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, an OPS of over 1,000. Just what more can you want from Spencer Horwitz? Spencer Horwitz, he's the Jewish king. He's just the greatest player of all time. Maybe the greatest one to do it. A little bit of a David Schneider run he's on right now. But Dal, how's Spencer Horwitz been treating you so far? Just from a fan perspective, watching him every day.
No, watching him, he's so good. Like, what gets brought to my mind every time I hear his name is his at bat against Clase the other night there. Like, just an absolute masterclass. One of the best closer in the major leagues, and he has a 12 pitch at bat, and what does he do at the end of it? Gets on base. Like, to me, he's looking like a major leaguer of 7 years already. So I'm hoping he keeps it hot because we need him to keep it hot, and he is a bright spot for this team going down the road for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? Going off of just of what Carter said about, how you found your 1 or 2 hitter. I mean, if you're hitting with the success that we've seen from Justin Turner over the past, week or so, if you could hit Horwitz, Bo, Vlad, Turner every time, or a flip-flop of the 3, I think Horwitz is your number 1 guy, just with the amount of times he's getting walked and just getting on base in general. But man, what a killer top 4. And then your other guys come in and pick up the slack. I mean, when Varsho comes back in, there's another guy that you can add in. It's just sort of too bad that he's not in right now with this team starting to get the bats back together. We're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know. I love Horwitz. I've loved what he's done so far. Again, he's sort of one of those guys like where Davis Schneider came in last year, became a fan favorite. That's sort of what Horwitz has done this season. So it's great to see some of these young guys do that, because that puts it in the heads of fans that, okay, you know what, maybe this is something we can build around going forward, right? If this season doesn't go our way and we have to make trades or do whatever, maybe we still have a future somewhere.
Yeah, I know I've said it multiple times on this podcast, but I'll keep saying it. I'm horny for Horwitz. When people actually hit baseballs consistently, I know I said I wasn't feeling anything on the last podcast, but Spencer Horwitz Vladdy brought me back. I'm feeling things once again. Maybe that'll be taken away from me. I know it's one game, not overreacting too much, but it is nice to see some offensive production. So I got one more thing, and it's about Addison Barger. I don't know if it's necessarily a good or a bad thing, but this is what I've been seeing. Maybe I'm just wrong here. So maybe it's just kind of like a food for thought sort of thing. Just let me know if you guys agree with this. But with Addison Barger, lately what I've been noticing with them is they're throwing a lot of like low fastballs and like low cutters, especially on the inside part of the plate. So they get him swinging at that initially. They kind of they establish the strike zone on the inside part. And then if they have a slider or a really good cutter that can work into Addison Barger, he's just swinging at that every single time when it's inside. He's pretty much taking a golf swing, and that's how he's getting a lot of strikeouts. They set him up with high fastballs, can set him up with away pitches, and then work right back inside. Seems like he loves swinging at inside pitches and isn't really making great contact off of them. But just tell me if like maybe I'm the only one seeing this, but I think the amount of times I've seen a Spencer Horwitz swing and miss from an inside slider has been a little bit ridiculous at this point. He's still playing good. It's just still fun watching a guy who's a free swinger swinging so hard at every single ball that comes to the plate, trying to hit a home run. It looks like every single swing. But is that something you're also noticing from Addison Barger, or am I just like completely out to lunch on this one?
Yeah, like I've noticed that for sure as well. And like you said, everything he does is hard. He's swinging hard. Um, he's trying to kill the ball every time. For Barger, I think it would benefit him. Um, right now I don't think he's quite there. We are seeing some good things, but I think like going into next year would benefit him to be with the team from the start. Just so he's not coming up in the middle of the season and feels like he has to do so much like in a short amount of time. So I'd like to see him start the year with the Blue Jays next year, and I think he'd do much better if that happened for him.
Yeah, I think that whole thing of like fighting for a spot, you try to do a little bit extra. And I think that's the difference between a guy like Davis Schneider, who probably came in and I saw from they did like a player promotional thing where they sort of did a story on him, whatever, before the game at one point. And he just sort of said he just loves playing baseball. He doesn't really want, like, he didn't need the whole fame of being in the MLB and everything. It was a really cool story. There was more to it that made it really good as well. But I think that was the difference. And I think Horwitz was a little bit more proven at that point, and he just sort of made the transition a little bit easier. Barger, yeah, just hasn't. I think is just trying to do too much, Bob. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And yeah, he's just some of the swings he's taken. Obviously, not the best defensive player, but I think there's a big spot and role for him, sort of moving forward the next few years for sure. So yeah, like Bubba said, I wouldn't mind him being on the active roster all the time next season.
Yeah, it's should be a lot of playing time open next season, depending on how the rest of the season goes. Obviously, they can turn it around. I think the collective agreement here on this podcast is that they're probably not going to turn it around. But hey, we got some good players to watch. Spencer Horwitz, a fun player to watch. Dalton Varsho when he's playing is fun. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. when he's hitting might be the most fun player, one of the most fun players in the league to watch when he's actually playing up to maybe his standard. Is that something you could say at this point? I don't know what Vladdy's standard is anymore. This is the second best offensive season, obviously, the first one being in 2021. So you got to take the good things when they're presented in front of you. But saying that, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate the likes, comments, subscribers. The last couple of days has been pretty ridiculous on a podcast growth standpoint. So the support's always appreciated. I've noticed that about 70% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you are coming back, watching the videos, the podcast every single time, might as well drop a subscription. It helps us out a ton and also keeps our podcast at the top of your page. Just want to throw it over one more time to Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, or the Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whether it's one of the major four sports or it's college sports, WNBA, whatever sport you want to watch and digest expert analysis on. Perfect opportunity to head out to one of those channels, whichever one is more convenient for you. Well, that's all I got today. Hopefully we get a win tomorrow. A series win would be nice for, it feels like an eternity, but it's only been like a week and a half. But Cutter Crawford versus, I believe, Yariel Rodriguez tomorrow. Yariel coming off not so great start. Hopefully can bounce back. But what do you want to see from the Blue Jays boys tomorrow's game or today's game against Cutter Crawford?
I want to see the same thing they did last night. I want to see, 11 hits. I want to see them hitting with runners in scoring position. I want the pitching to be great. I want the bullpen to be great. I want them to ride this hot hand that they got going. Right now I wouldn't expect anything less. Your season's on the line. You need to dig out of this hole, and that's what you need to do tomorrow to be successful, is play exactly how you played last night.
Yeah, it's got to be a fight. The boys got to be battling right now. This is a little bit do or die, I think, not just for the team, but for the fans as well. This is the time where you got to really, really, put the nose to the grindstone here and just, cut away into some of these losses and get back to, you got to battle for 500. That's the goal right now.
Yeah, well, you definitely lost a lot of fans, a lot of respect, just a lot of hope in this Blue Jays organization. But I mean, when you lose a 2 series in a row, you lose the off day somehow. It's just like, how you're supposed to feel good about that. Yeah, you're playing pretty much, it's your World Series for the next 82 games, whatever it is. If you want to make the playoffs, it's either put up or shut up at this point. You could prove a lot of Blue Jays fans here wrong. George Springer can maybe pick it up again. Like maybe the delusions are coming in here of Kevin Kiermaier. Not necessarily Kevin Kiermaier is not that big of a piece on this team. You really need George Springer. You need Vladdy. You need Bo Bichette to pick it up. He is back finally, so that is nice. Dalton Varsho should be back hopefully by the end of the week. We'll be looking to get more updates on him. But yeah, you need just consistency. You need good offense. Your pitching is going to be able to put you in good spots a lot of the time, probably 80-85% of the time, give you a chance to succeed, give you a chance to win ball games. You just got to play from all 3 facets of the ball. You got to have good defense, you got to have good pitching, and you got to have good hitting. And that's something the Blue Jays haven't put together. Hopefully they can do that against the Boston Red Sox because, as we already said, it's not going to get much easier. You got the Yankees, you got the Astros, you got the Mariners. A lot of tough teams coming up. So you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to earn it. Nothing's going to be given to you in this Toronto Blue Jays season, as we already know. But just one more time, thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.